I hope you all have heard about this particular word, but today we will see it through different dimensions. So, we will start with the basic and simple definition of motivation. So, the term motivation is derived from the Latin word which means to move, or a need or desire that motivate direct behavior toward goals. Well, basically, motivation is the process that initiates, guides, and maintains goal oriented behaviors. Or motivation involves the biological, social, emotional, and cognitive forces that activate behaviors. We can also say that in everyday usage, the term motivation is frequently used to describe why a person does something. It is the driving force behind human actions. For example, uh, it is what causes you to act, whether it is getting a glass of water to reduce thirst or reading a book to gain knowledge. Motivation has many uses and it helps us in many different ways. Like, motivation helps to improve the efficiency of people as they work toward goals. It helps us to take action. It helps us to encourage to engage in health oriented behaviors. Or motivation help people feel more in control of their lives. Or at the end we can say that motivation improve overall well-being and happiness. So the next thing is that motivation has two types of motives: primary motives and secondary motives. So the primary motives are motives which are linked with basic primary needs and associated with biological well-being of an individuals. Or the secondary motives are motives linked with one's socio-psychological needs known as secondary or psychological motives. There are also some characteristics of motivation like component of directing, psychological aspect, goals or directed, continuous process or integrated. Here we will see that there are two types of motivation. First is positive motivation or the other one is the negative motivation. The positive motivation is it is a type of motivation that you use when you perform an activity to gain a reward that usually lies in the future. This future may be immediate or distant, or the expectation of a reward is what drives you. Or the negative motivation is it is the type of motivation that you use when you perform an activity to avoid the pain that may result from not doing it. For example, when a student who studies hard not to fail is negatively motivating himself, while positive motivation is expecting a reward, negative motivation is avoiding a pain or punishment. Moreover, there are other two types of motivation like extrinsic motivation or intrinsic motivation. So we will discuss them in detail here. So the extrinsic motivation is extrinsic motivation refers to behavior that is driven by external rewards such as money, fame, grades, and praise. For example, when you are extrinsically motivated, you do something in order to gain an external reward. This can mean getting something in return, such as money, or avoiding getting into trouble, such as losing your job. So, the other is intrinsic motivation. Intrinsic motivation refers to behavior that is driven by internal reward. In other words, the motivation to engage in a behavior arises from within the individual because it is intrinsically rewarding. Example, when you read a book just because you enjoy reading rather than getting knowledge. So this is called an example of intrinsic motivation. There are also some other examples of intrinsic motivation, which are like participating in a sport because it's fun and you enjoy it rather than doing it to win an award, which is an example of extrinsic motivation. Or learning a new language because you like experiencing new things, not because your job requires it. Or cleaning because you enjoy a tidy space rather than doing it to avoid making your spouse angry. Or another example of intrinsic motivation is like you like playing cards because you enjoy the challenge instead of playing to win money. These all are called the examples of intrinsic motivation. And positive motivation and negative motivation, we have already discussed about it. Yeah, these are the quotations of motivation. Like stop saying tomorrow and stop thinking, start doing. These are very powerful quotations of motivation which helps us and keeps us motivated. And these motivating quotations forces us to achieve our objectives and goals. This is a theory of motivation which was penned by Frederick Hesburgh in 1959. The hygiene theory of motivation. This American psychologist, who was very interested in people's motivation and job satisfaction, came up with the theory. Hesburgh theory of motivation tries to get to the root of motivation in the workplace. You can leverage this theory to help you get the best performance from your team. The two factors identified by Hesburgh are motivators and hygiene factors. So the motivating factors. The presence of motivators causes employees to work harder. They are found within the actual job itself. And the hygiene factors. The absence of hygiene factors will cause employees to work less hard. Hygiene factors are not present in the actual job itself but surround the job. The impact of motivating and hygiene factors is summarized in the following diagram. This is the diagram of the factors of Hesburgh. Like the motivator factors are increase employee job satisfaction, and the poor hygiene factors decrease employee job satisfaction. Two-factor theory of motivation. Motivators are the achievement, recognition, the work itself, responsibility, advancement, and growth. And the hygiene factors includes company policies, supervision, relationships, work conditions, salary and security. For example, that you should give full security, salary and insurance, and supervision should be fair to all your employees, and this will motivate them to work hard. So this is the end of my discussion. I hope this information will help you, and my little effort, you will appreciate it. Thank you so much.